Hi everyone, welcome to chapter 3. Um, so I just want to give a bit of introduction first to those of you that are new to my story or do not know a bit of the background to my story. Sorry about the reflections in my spectacles, it's not the best light or position to be making this video. However, like this entire day I've been not feeling great health wise. See, my hair is a mess. I've been, exam prepping, I've been exhausted, but like continuously, chapter 3 has been playing on my mind, and I'm like, I owe it to you guys after all these months to continue with the story and tell chapter 3 to my social media disappearance. Um, but firstly, I also just want to remind everyone and also inform the new viewers that I am a social worker by profession. And the reason why I'm highlighting that but is also to explain the name behind my pages, my blog that says Tracy Not the Social Worker, because this chapter is going to highlight how us social workers are also just people, how things get too much for us as well, how we do not necessarily know the answers, how sometimes we can't pull ourselves towards ourselves, sometimes we can't pull ourselves out of the mess. So, chapter 3. So, after months of, having dealt with my assault, having dealt with my mom's diagnosis, for those that have watched the previous chapters and read my blogs, initially my mom's dementia diagnosis didn't affect me at all. I was numb to it. I was just okay with it until I was assaulted last year, physically assaulted last year by a taxi driver, and my world just came crashing down. So from there, I was in a very emotional state. I had to go through therapy. I really had to dig deep into myself. Then also, now chapter 3 talks about a breakdown that I had a few months ago. I was just, I had dealt with some organizational trauma at work. I went through a few difficult times at work. I was dealing with my mom, dealing with my brother that's on substances, dealing with, all of these things also affecting my marriage and the communication within my marriage and um, the constant fighting, not being able to get through to one another, and being a postgrad student as well, and daily dealing with other people's circumstances as a social worker. And one night, I just exploded. In terms of, when I talk about exploded, I don't mean like I was screaming and shouting in terms of swearing and things like that. Yes, I was screaming, but I was screaming out for help, like emotional support. Like I felt like my heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces, like, and I felt in every part of my body the physical pain of my heart breaking. Like I cried. I didn't know how to stop crying. I didn't know how to breathe. I didn't know how to calm my body. Like I was not functioning. I was inconsolable. I was a mess. And I even ended up calling a crisis helpline. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And um I'm sorry to say, as a social worker, I am appalled by our mental health services in this country. Um, I literally, the only words I could utter on that call was, I can't stop crying. And all this person would say to me is, I need you to stop crying, I need you to stop crying. And eventually, like, I got some water, and I could say that I feel like I'm losing my mind. And they were like, you know what? Where do you live? I could tell them where I live, and they were like, tomorrow go to our offices. And I'm like, say what? You want me to go to your offices tomorrow? Like, what do I do right now? I don't know. And my husband was away at the time. I called my brother. So for those of you that also haven't read my story, my eldest brother and I, we were not the closest. We only found each other like recently in the sense of building a relationship. We are far apart in age. There's a lot of things in our family that has happened that has, strained us in a sense. So I called him because, he's also the one who the two of us, when we don't understand what's happening anymore, we are in crisis mode when it comes to our family and the things that we've been exposed to. We kind of speak to each other about it because we understand from different aspects. And I called him and I was crying, you know what? And he was praying with me on the phone and he was like, you know what, Tracy? You need to have a life outside of work. And as crazy as it sounds, I think that was really the turning point for me because a lot of my life, and it's also something I learned from my mother. Like, my mother didn't go complete school, she didn't go very far in education, but she prioritized education when it came to her children. Even though we didn't have money, she ensured we finished school. Even though our schools didn't have windows, she was like, it's not about the building, you are going. She pushed us to tertiary education. And I think, like, seeing all those years and as a child how important education was to her, I sort of internalized it as a coping mechanism. For example, whenever there was domestic violence in the home, I would read a book. If things would go wrong at home, I would sit with my homework. Like, I drew myself to academics, and that is how I ended up coping my whole life. In terms of academic excellence was my priority. I ended up seeing it as my life, academic and employment success. That is what I excel towards. I saw that that is as who I am and that is who my life was. But in that moment, I realized, but that's not true. That is just a part of me. That is just a value that I have. That was just my coping mechanism throughout my survival mode. But who am I? What do I enjoy doing? And like, that mind shift really, like, allowed me to see many other things. For example, I always thought that I was the only one in the family that didn't have a talent. um, but when I started realizing that, there's life outside of work, there's life outside of academic excellence, there's life outside of that, I started seeing my creative side. I was able to write. Um, for those that have read my blog, it's never too late. The link is on my Facebook page under Tracy Nieuwenheyzen-Petersen. Um, and also, I am busy writing a book to my mom because I never had the opportunity to say goodbye to her. I never had the opportunity to ask her questions that I did. So it's basically a love letter to her in which I write my understanding of her to her. I'm writing a story as to how I see her and how I've seen her over the years and her parts of her story that I was privileged to hear. I also learned that I can paint somewhat. Recently, I sculptured some soap. And I've also, as much as I don't eat cake, I've learned that I can bake and decorate cakes, which no one has taught me. Baking, my mom has taught me as a child because she always said, my kind, ek wil hê as jy eendag trou, whether jy seuns is of meisiekinders is, 'n man of 'n vrou moet nie vir julle kan vermaak nie. Julle moet kan kos maak, julle moet kan bak, julle moet kan skoonmaak, julle moet kan naaldwerk doen. And she taught my brother and I, like both my brothers and I, all those skills in order to equip us in life, whether we enjoyed it or not. And I truly was able to view that I have a creative side. And I feel that I don't know what the purpose is of, me sharing my stories in the sense of where it's going to end up, but I felt that I needed to start speaking out to the world because I also come from a community, and no offense to anyone, but a community of colored people where we come from generations where the older generation does not speak to the younger. We are not able to learn from their mistakes because we get told, kinders moet gesien wees en nie gehoor wees nie. Of nee, ons praat nie met kinders daaroor nie. So it's those things that truly makes me want to share my story, and I feel that when I started sharing my story, I also started healing through my story. That was a privilege for me, and the only thing that I could really ask for is that I could help others to help heal, to help others to help understand. So, yeah, that is chapter 3. Chapter 3 is I had a breakdown of breakdowns, and even I, as a social worker, couldn't help myself. And it just shows how everybody at some stage does need somebody, no matter who you are, or where you come from, or what your profession is. At the end of the day, we are all just people. And for those that will see me as a social worker only, I am a person, and you will see all these layers being peeled away constantly in these videos. I do hope that you guys keep on watching the story. I do hope that you subscribe on my channel. When you do subscribe, please write a comment with your name and where you are watching from so that I can also add you to the lucky draw. It's still going. Um, it was only a pleasure to share this chapter with you. And I hope to see you keep watching going forward. Thank you.